I'm Brendan Schulman. I'm a lawyer at the firm of Kramer, Levin here in New York City, and I'm currently working on the very first civilian drone case.
Is this the very first case you worked on, or the very case that ever happened with the FAA?
It's in fact the very first case ever in the United States concerning civilian drones.
Wow. Can you tell us what are the facts surrounding this case? What happened, and why is your client in court right now?
So my client, Raphael Perker, is a well-known radio control model pilot, and he was flying his model aircraft down at the University of Virginia. There was an advertising firm that was interested in possibly using the footage for advertising purposes, and so he is alleged to have flown his model airplane in a reckless fashion so as to endanger life or property, and the FAA is pursuing a $10,000 fine against him.
Wow. And the FAA, the legal provision is a set of regulations that they set that says specifically commercial use cannot be used. If your client did this as a hobby, would he face this fine and this punishment by the FAA?
Well, actually, my client does do this largely as a hobby. He takes his plane around the world and shoots videos for fun. In this instance, they're alleging that he received payment for the video. And in that instance, they say this is a commercial radio control model airplane flight. And that puts it into an entirely different category. It's considered an unmanned aircraft system. And currently, the FAA says that it is illegal to operate an unmanned aircraft system for commercial or business purposes. And that is, I think, the way that they allege that his model aircraft is suddenly subject to all of the federal aviation regulations that apply to real aircraft, manned aircraft.
Does that make sense?
Not to me, and it's certainly the position we took in our motion to dismiss is that it does not only does not make sense, but it's not actually enforceable law.
In this case, the FAA is putting on these regulations until 2015. What do you think of these current regulations that are on the books right now when it comes to, just people flying drones?
Well, there actually are no enforceable regulations, and that's really the point that we made in our motion to dismiss. Instead, what we have is a policy statement from the FAA dating back to 2007 that says that as of 2007, they're going to consider business flying of unmanned aircraft or model drones, model aircraft, to be illegal. But that was issued as a policy statement, not as a formal regulation. And so it's not actually enforceable, even though they've been sending around cease and desist letters to aerial photographers, and now they're trying to fine my client.
Why do you think they went after your client? Because you could see a lot of videos online and on YouTube of drones flying everywhere. But specifically, they went after your client. Why do you think that was the case? Why do you think he was targeted for the first ever case of punishment?
Well, he really came to their attention, I think, about 3 years ago when he did one of his flights in New York City. And for whatever reason, I think they decided that this flight that he did in Virginia was the one they were going to use as the example. They allege that it's commercial in nature, and they have set out a policy that says that commercial flying is not allowed. And I suppose they're also arguing that the commercial flying is also subject to the federal aviation regulations. So perhaps they thought that was their strongest approach at enforcement, even though they don't have the regulations in place.
If the FAA is worried about safety of the airspace, why do they only care if it's commercial? How does that make sense?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me in terms of model aircraft that are flown low to the ground. I think that the FAA comes at it from the perspective of manned aviation, which has for a very long time been divided into the world of general aviation or recreational aviation and commercial aviation. So, in real airplanes, if you charge money to carry passengers or cargo, there's an element of trust. People are paying you to do something, and you're subject to a much higher standard of care vis-a-vis just recreational pilots. And I think that dichotomy has been transferred wholesale to the issue of unmanned aircraft and in this case model airplanes, and I don't necessarily think that's appropriate, but it makes sense to me why they would think that way, because that's the way that manned aircraft are treated.
Is there anything else we're missing from this case? Is there anything else we should know?
Only that I think that this is the first test case for this policy. I think there are other instances where People are using radio-controlled model airplanes with cameras, with sensors, and there's really a tremendous benefit to this technology in areas like agriculture, search and rescue, really countless opportunities here for not only for our economy to grow and for jobs to be created, but also for people to advance the technology in the country. And so the case is really, I think, a symbol for bureaucratic slowness and delay, and really what is quickly becoming a missed opportunity to make things better in this country.
Do you believe the FAA is hurting business?
Yes, I do. I think that given that it's been 6 years and they promised in 2010 to issue by 2011 an actual regulation concerning small unmanned aircraft systems, and they still haven't done that today. And as we stand here right now, they've been tasked by Congress to issue regulations by 2015, but they're also way behind on that. They were supposed to designate test sites for unmanned aircraft, and they were supposed to put those in place by now, and they haven't even chosen them. So they are way behind, and I think that really is damaging to the economy.
Long story short is there was a certain, national monument that the Chinese government didn't want our systems to be able to fly near. So we said, okay, we'll limit the system.
This is not the first time I've heard this, lady.
No, I don't have to give you a camera. No, I don't have to give you a camera. It's my First Amendment right as an American citizen to record everything in a public space, and that's what I'm doing here today. You're a public servant, and I have every right to film.